Bill, there was an important connection between International House and the Soros Foundation. Can you tell me about that?
Well, I was working with the Soros Foundations. I had the most wonderful job title. It was a retainer to be myself, but it did enable me to travel throughout Eastern Europe, and I was working mainly on cultural projects and developing and supporting cultural institutions throughout Eastern Europe. And at one point, I was aware that the Soros family of foundations were conscious that we needed to do something about English language teaching. Not particularly for the general population, but for the civil servants and institutional people who we were working with in the institutions, because you couldn't even communicate lots of things that would help support institutions unless there was a common language. And we were keen then to, at least for people working in civil society, to have urgent teacher training, teaching of English. I remember arranging a meeting at George Soros's home in London with we invited, I don't remember the actual people who turned up, the head of English language teaching in the British Council, at the BBC, at Longmans, at the Open University, and it was a breakfast meeting, and Soros announced that he wanted to do something to help arrange for English teaching and language teaching to be spread across Eastern Europe. He said he would contribute £25 million if the British institutions together could match it. They were all astounded, but all said that they couldn't make decisions for one reason or another, and that this would take some time. And I remember the man from the BBC saying, we'd have to put 25% aside for evaluation or something like that. And so I said, no, we'll know if it's working. You don't put money aside for evaluation. And someone, I think, from the Open University said, well, we won't be able to give you an answer for, I think, 9 months, because it'll have to go through a series of meetings. And there were a series of, it was all they could think of, it seemed to me, as I sat there, was thinking of the difficulties they would have in coming forward and saying, yes, let's do it. Clearly, I knew that to find matching funds was going to be a challenge, but there was no expression, this is great, let's try to make it work. Of course, International House never, in the guise of John Haycroft, never needed any encouragement to say, yes, let's try it. And John was like kind of Johnny Appleseed, planting seeds across America. He planted schools faster than Appleseed did trees. And he asked for some money. I went on, I think, one of his first trips to Romania, and we went round. Basically, he gave a talk about English language teaching, and then people came up to him afterwards, and he would talk to them about it. And he'd say, why don't you open a school? And he would sort of actually pinpoint people and encourage them to take on the task. And in Romania, I remember getting Soros Foundation in Romania to support the equipping and training of a school in Timișoara and in Iași. And George went on a trip, John went to Georgia. I didn't go with him to the trip to Georgia, but I went with other trips with him. And slowly a relationship became not just with the individual Soros Foundations, which were contributing to costs, but with the headquarters, and they sort of put John onto a retainer, a bit like myself, to be the English language consultant. And this is after he left International House. He retired from International House and became, like myself, a part-time consultant for the Soros Foundation. And he then was able to utilize the various budgets that existed within the Soros network, both from the central headquarters, but also from each of the foundations in each country. And during that process, he must have caused to bring into existence about 20 schools, half a dozen at least in Poland, 3 or 4 in Ukraine, and others in Lithuania, and on and on.